today Pastor Ben's with us. And Pastor Ben, little did I know, I was telling him before service, we were in Missouri one time, and I arrived early because we were having a meeting there, and then he came after me. So I was the young whippersnapper, and I had to get there and get the car and do all the stuff, and then I was supposed to pick up Reverend Randall at the airport. And so this was back in the days before TSA. This was back in the days when they just had propellers. And and so he was clear across the airport, across the concourse there, and I just started yelling, "Dad! Dad!" We had this great reunion meeting, hugging each other in front of everybody right there, and called him Dad, and he called me his son ever since. And we've had just a wonderful, joyful existence together. We worked on staff together, and we had some great times, and of course, here we are. And I share that story of Dad because he's the father of us, and I've been saying in his spiritual loins was us, before who knows when. And he birthed this church, and we're just grateful for Pastor Ben, a great man, loves people, has a heart for the Lord, and so I thought it'd be nice to have him come. He came out for a funeral yesterday, and I said, while you're here, you might as well come. And so here he is. Would you welcome Pastor Ben Randall?
Thank you. Good morning, New Hope. Wow, it feels good to say that. It is an honor and a blessing to be here. It really is. Thank you. Pastor Kurt, thank you very much. Thank you very much. By the way, we're not going to discuss my loins while I'm up here. I just felt there were certain things that I ought to curb, How many here have given up maps and you use a GPS to get wherever you're going? I mean, honestly, most of you? Yeah. Me too. About 2 months ago, I went to a place called Ridgecrest in Black Mountain, North Carolina, and it was 560 miles from where I live. So I got up real early. I put all the information into my GPS. I grabbed my CDs of Dramatic Bible. I threw them in there and listened all the way up north and just enjoyed the ride. Just tuned out because I knew I'd be there around 3 or 4 o'clock. What? I'm going there, and it's really pretty good, I mean, I'm going north. I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm not paying a lot of attention because I've never been up here before, but I'm going along. I finally realized it's more like 4:30, and I've gone 580 miles. I got so wrapped up in, listening to the scriptures that I missed my turn. So I stopped, got gas, went in, told the clerk, listen, could you tell me I should be pretty close? I'm looking for Ridgecrest in Black Mountain, North Carolina. It's right outside of Asheville. And she just popped up and looked at me, Asheville? Yeah, well, just get up here on I-40 and head west. Cool. But be careful, because it is Labor Day weekend. There is, or not Labor Day, it was Memorial Day, I think it was. Anyway, whatever it was a holiday, and there was people on the road, and she said there's a lot of traffic out there, and the weather is about to get really bad. I said, okay, but I've been driving all day long. Another 20 minutes or so is no big deal, believe me. And she looked at me kind of funny and picked up her phone and folded it for a minute. She said, you're not serious about that 20 minutes, are you? I said, well, of course. No, sir, you have about 5 hours yet to go. 5 hours. You see, what had happened is I put Ridgecrest, Black Mountain, North Carolina, in my GPS, who is just so honest, and off we went. What I should have done is in Atlanta, made a slight northwest curve. It made a slight northeast curve. And didn't take me to Ridgecrest and Black Mountain, it took me to Mountain Ridge, North Carolina, because it had the same address. the population of Mountain Ridge would sit in the chairs you have on the wall back there. So obviously what happened is when I got to where I was going, I found that my 4 o'clock didn't actually come out to be 4 o'clock. It was more like midnight. Actually, it was 10 o'clock, but by the time I got all settled in. And my 560 miles became 998.7 miles. And all it was is just a slight deviation. I mean, so slight, you really couldn't tell. Do you realize what that's like in our own life? I mean, I drove away thinking about that. Man, you know, it doesn't take an awful lot for me to get off course. If I get off course a little, I can end up off course a lot. Because I started right, I just ended wrong. Right? I guess it had a lot to do also with who I was listening to, or at least who I trusted, or the fact that I didn't take the time to check it out. I would venture to say, and I say this with some experience, that at least 80% of most Christians that I know don't check out a thing I'm going to tell you today. They just listen to it, they believe it, they walk out and say, Ben wouldn't lie. Oh, yeah. Check it out. In fact, always check it out. You have a way to do it. Do I have an on that? That's all I'm asking for. Okay. I want to talk to you about out of the book of Psalms. Martin Luther said that God's grace shines brightly through the Psalms. And what makes the Psalms really, really neat is it speaks of every human emotion. Not a single emotion that you've ever experienced is not written about in some fashion in the Psalms. But of those 150 Psalms, 49 of them are pretty much prayers, intercessions, songs, poetry, all that kind of stuff. But there's one that isn't. There's one that is a warning. It's a warning about getting off course. It's the very first one. I'm going to put it up on the screen, and I'm going to ask you to read along with me if you would. Okay, you ready? How blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked, nor stand in the path of sinners, nor sit in the seat of scoffers. But his delight is in the law of the Lord. In his law he meditates day and night. He will be like a tree firmly planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in its season, and its leaf will not wither. And whatever he does, he prospers. The wicked are not so, but they are like chaff, which the wind drives away. Therefore, the wicked will not stand in the judgment, nor the sinners in the assembly of the righteous. For the Lord knows the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked will perish. A couple of weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago, I was in my doctor's office, and in the foyer, they have a table with all these magazines on it, and I picked up Architectural Digest. I don't know if you've ever seen one, but they're really a neat magazine. They've got all these pictures of different beautiful homes and whatnot. And as I was thumbing through it, there was an article there that had a section that somebody had highlighted. And I just want to read this to you because this is worth hearing. A cornerstone is the first stone laid in which all other stones receive orientation, direction, and placement. A proper cornerstone and strict adherence to it can determine the strength of the foundation. Did you get that? Listen, Isaiah 28:16 says, "Thus says the Lord God, behold, I am laying in Zion a stone, a tested stone, a costly cornerstone, for the foundation firmly placed, and he who believes in him will not be disturbed." Now that's the American Standard. It means will not be shaken. And from what I hear, you Californians know how to shake. All right? I remember those days long ago. Now I just get blown away. I don't. God our Father has placed a measure of faith in every man, woman, and child. He has placed a measure of faith in not just us church-going folks. He has placed a measure of faith in everyone who takes a breath. But it's a measure of faith. Jesus Christ, right, is our cornerstone. Amen? And he sets our course. And the Holy Spirit guides our way. But I want you to take note of something. The foundation that is laid from that cornerstone is our responsibility. We lay the foundation of faith in which our life is built upon. Everybody has a cornerstone. Everybody. And it's not always Jesus. It could be anything or anyone. It could be your family. It could be your finances. It could be your wealth. It could be your lack of wealth. It could be a cultural issue. It could be anything. It doesn't really matter. But somewhere along the line, you have a cornerstone in which you are building from that your foundation of faith. And that's where you're putting your faith. How many people do you know have worked their life, their entire life, to create a business only to have it fail? And what happens to them? They fail. Why? Because the foundation of their faith in their cornerstone wasn't strong enough to hold them up. A few months back, or a month or so ago, a bunch of folks came home. They went into their homes and they made dinner, maybe watched a movie or something, played a game, read a book. And then when they got tired, it was time to go to bed, they went over and they locked the door to make sure they were secure, and they went to bed. And they were safe, and they felt comfortable because they had confidence that they were safe. But as the night wore on, their home fell. In southern Florida, an entire apartment complex came down, and it's killed over 100 people. What in the world happened? I mean, what could have possibly happened? Well, I think the one thing you're going to say that it was a bad foundation. Foundation was weak. It wasn't that weak. It held it up for 40 years. What in the world happened then? If it held that building up for 40 years, it wasn't the foundation's fault. It was what weakened the foundation. You with me here? And what weakens the foundation? Now, you're going to hear, no doubt, I know we certainly will, you're going to hear all kinds of fault finding and blame laying, and I mean, you know, that's who we are. We find fault and we lay blame. But I can tell you right now, and you can bank on this, I can tell you exactly what happened. You can say, oh, how did you know? Well, I'm not an engineer, but I know God. So, listen to this. It was persistent erosion. That's what it was. Persistent erosion. For 40 years, ever so slowly, chipping away, just off track. Just worked away and worked its way and worked its way to where those of us who have given our heart to Christ and we stand firmly because He is our cornerstone, and then life comes in and beats us up. I can tell you, I've walked with God for 40 years. And I would love to say that I stood strong for 40 years. I've had so many valley experiences, you have no concept, no idea. Not only for my own foolishness and failures, but also for the things that have struck my life. And I'm sure that applies to you as well. So I'm responsible then to take my foundation and not rebuild it, but continually add to it so that I can tighten up my Jesus cleats, dig in, and when the winds start to blow, I can stand it. My question to you is, what is undermining? What is that erosion that is slowly chipping away at your faith? Because I really doubt, seriously, that there isn't a whole lot of people in this room that have had those same experiences. Well, look back at the Psalms. Go to Psalm 1:1, the cornerstone of the Psalms. Read this out loud. I want you to read this nice and loud, all of you, and here's why I want you to do that. I want your ears to hear your lips give you the warning. Ready? How blessed is the man or woman who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked, nor stand in the path of sinners, nor sit in the seat of scoffers. Now let's break that down a bit. Okay? Notice at first it says blessed. The first word is blessed. Blessed is basically the psalmist is telling us this is what can be for you if you just simply recognize what you are doing and what you shouldn't be doing. The word blessed is also the same word, Hebrew word, that Jesus uses in the, I think, 5th chapter of Matthew, in the Beatitudes, where he's addressing those who will be a part of the kingdom, his kingdom. And what is he saying? He's telling us, this is who is part of my kingdom, and they are They have a particular way of life in which I want to see take place as they're a part of my kingdom. Now the difference there is Jesus is talking about what they're to do. The psalmist here is talking about what you shouldn't do. Because this first line, the very first portion of this text, is telling you what starts that erosion process, and if you don't catch it there, it could go really bad. Look at the first action word. First action word is what? Walk. Walk. Now that's a word that's simply referring to a casual movement. All right? It's just walking along, not paying a lot of attention to anything. It's a casual stroll. It's window shopping. You ever go window shopping? Yeah. All the ladies are going, yes. The guys are going, oh, yeah. Oh, hey. Gentlemen, trust me. You're married to Roberta. Trust me. But we do that. We love to go to these little towns, and these little towns have all these little downtown areas, and you go along and you go window shopping. Now, we didn't go there to buy a window. We just went there and we looked through the window to the stuff that they have. That is what he's talking about here. It's a complacent disinterest by the one who is walking. That's pretty much what he's saying. It's no big deal. Just getting there. It's like going for a drive. How many here last year were so tired of getting cooped up, you went out and got in the car and left, and you had no idea where you were going and didn't care? Most of us, almost all of us, you just had to go somewhere, anywhere. It didn't matter. Just get out of the house. That's what he's talking about here. Just going down the road, no place in particular heading out to. But notice the next word. You're walking in counsel. The term counsel means to advise. And it adds a methodology of that it's a hard or firm or specific advice. It's not a casual advice. It's not, hey, how you doing? I hope you have a good day. Oh, listen, by the way, be careful. Your car might hit one of the, I noticed you were close to one of the bumpers out here. Don't hit. No, I'm talking about it is a specific. I notice in California you don't have this a lot, but boy, do we have them in Florida. Billboards. Huge billboards. Everywhere, particularly on the turnpike. You go along, you can't go a mile without another billboard. They're every place. And you got to wonder, why would anybody spend that kind of money to build a huge billboard when the guys nobody's seeing it because they're all watching the road, right? I have a feeling you're not watching the road. Of course you're not watching the road. You look at that sign just like everybody else looks at that sign. You don't slow down to read it. You're not stepping back to trying to see what it says or write something down. You're passing it, but you're looking at it. Now, it may not mean anything to you, but it's in there. You with me? It's in there. That's why they put it out there, so it can get in there. One of the problems, or one of the things that we have in Florida, is every third sign is some lawyer. I mean, no joke. Well, and if it's not the lawyer, it's somebody that was represented by the lawyer. Yeah, old Billy Bob, he got me $112,000. No kidding. And it goes on and on and on like that. But I want you to know, 3 things will happen if you come up to that stop sign and somebody hits the back of you. 3 things will run through your mind. First, ow. Second, who hit me? And third, gosh, I didn't get that number off that sign. But you will be going back to that sign to find out that number. That's what they're after. It's a specific. See, they're not suggesting that they advise you of something you could do. They are very specific about what they want you to do. They're not telling you to buy any product, buy a specific product. And it's in your head. Well, who is this? Well, according to this, the wicked. Oh, well, that's different. Before you start oohing and on about the wicked, don't start shifting back to Hollywood concept of wicked. Because what we tend to think is if they were just dragging their feet and drooling a little bit and probably eating little kids, that is wicked. No, they're not going to. That sign does not tell you that the lawyer is going to take 50% of whatever you get. That sign tells you the lawyer's here to help you out. They're not telling you that when you pull over to this restaurant, you're probably going to get sick. They're just telling you to pull over to this restaurant. Does that make sense? Yeah. The wicked here are those who are not not living according to God, and they are giving ungodly counsel. How much counsel have you gotten? Here's a question I want you to take home and think about it. Who and what counsels you? Oh, now, I'm not talking about going to Pastor Kurt for counseling or Pastor Donna. I want to know who counsels you or what counsels you. I can tell you there's a lot of different things that counsel me. But there's one thing that I finally woke up to. I'm a news junkie. And in the entire month of May, I did not turn on one bit. I didn't read it. I didn't look at it. I had Roberta boot up my computer and get rid of that stuff before I got onto it. Nothing. I was the most single uninformed human being on the planet. And I loved it. In fact, I asked Roberta, I said, how do you think? She says, well, you've gotten happier. I would get so mad watching news. And I would turn around and watch another one. I'd get mad with that one. And I'd turn around and I'd get mad. Anybody get mad with the news? I get so tired of hearing the violence and hearing the stupidity and all that. I would just, and finally I just said, enough. Enough. Because it became the Lord of my life. It was owning me. I would come home feeling great, and I would go to bed not feeling so good. Why? Because I was watching the signs. I was taking in the counsel. Now, 15 minutes a day, most. And the only time I find out what's going on in the world is Roberta will tell me what's going on. Right? Which she has done since the beginning. All right, look at the second action word. Stand. Ask yourself, by the way, I was serious about that question. Who counsels you? Who's investing in your brain? Because once they're in there, they're going to rattle around until they get your attention. Okay, stand. The term here it means more than just simply stopping that forward movement. It means literally to take a stand. The definition also refers to making a declaration. What happened here? Well, our comfortable walk suddenly became slowed down enough to stop. And we stopped long enough. See, once you stop, now you pretty much start becoming involved. I mean, you can't be involved if you're walking by it, but you can be involved when you're stopping at it. That make sense? I don't know if those are the right words, but, there's no more cruising along. There's no more casual driving. There's no more simple window shopping. Now you're in trouble. Now you've got to stop and you've got to do exactly wherever you might be directed. The information you had gotten from the signs is no longer information. It's now a directive. And you're starting to move. See, I moved from simply watching the news to getting really angry over it. That was where I stand. I stopped. And it went even further sometimes. I just, But look where they're standing. They're standing in the path. Simply that means a marked out place. A certain and precise way of life. Take note, the words we're looking at here, you can look them up in your Strongs, but you've got to make sure you're also reading them, just like you would English, in the manner and method in which they are spoken. Because if you miss the whole expression of the writer, then you can lose the essence of the meaning of the text. I mean, if I dropped a cookie and it broke up on here, and Kevin Carpenter didn't rush out to get it. Anyway, if I'm looking down at this cookie and it broke up, and I said, crumb, you might look at it and go, yeah, there's crumbs. Or if I said, crumb, well, you'd know that it suddenly changed meaning, didn't it? It went from an object to an emotion. You have to be careful how you're reading the word. I mean, there is plenty of things out there in which you can use to study God's word. Avail yourself to it. And if you're not sure about something, bring it to your pastor. Let him answer it for you. But know the truth. Now, this isn't just any path. This is no longer an uncertain misdirection. You're about ready now to participate. I'm walking along with Roberta, doing a little window shopping. And of course, gentlemen, you will be able to relate to this. I'm explaining to her how I have full understanding of all the global issues that are we're facing today, and I could probably answer them all if somebody would just give me a shot. And, I'm talking about just how brilliant I am so that she will not forget. By the way, keep that in mind. Okay? They're going to get married, so I just want them to know. And then I'm watching people walk by me, and they're looking at me like I'd lost my mind. I couldn't figure out what's wrong until I realized I was talking to myself. Somewhere along the line, Roberta saw something in the window, and she stopped. She has moved now from an observer to a buyer. So, by the way, newlywed, find her fast. Biblical counseling, So we're talking about a path here, and you can see the concept of where you stop and stand, but who you're standing in. This is the one that really gets me, because I've heard so many people simply downplay this word, but it means a sinner. Whose path is it? A sinner. Now, does that mean that they're standing against the sinners in the path? No. No, they've slowed down enough to actually participate with the sinners in the path. They're blending in. You can't tell the saints from the sinners. And here's the really interesting part. The sinner, we always say, what is a sinner? Oh, somebody who's missed the mark, right? They've just missed the mark. I got to tell you, that was washed down too far. That has been bought too long. Is that what it means? Sure it is. But let me share with you also what it refers to. It refers to someone who has allowed themselves to accept a life and a lifestyle that is contrary to God. It's not just somebody who sins. We all sin. And thank God we have the grace of God to be forgiven. This is referring to someone who isn't just sinning, they've accepted it as a way of life. Does that sound familiar with anybody? Because we're living in that. It's accepted. We have to accept these things because, well, there's so many people that are moving in that direction, and, well, if there's that many people, it must be true. No, the only truth we've got is in this book. Spend time in it. It's not merely being among the sinners, it's actually becoming a part of them. Let me ask you, here's another question for you. Does your neighborhood and the people who live in your neighborhood, at work, people you work with, at school, people you may be going to school with, or maybe whatever social environment you're in, do they know that you are a Christ follower? Do they know that? Now, understand, I've shared this before, from this platform, but understand. It is not you walking out in the morning with the kids at exactly 8 o'clock every Sunday morning, all of you carrying a Bible, and getting in your SUV and going down the street with a huge fish in the back and Jesus Saves bumper sticker. That is, or you telling them. That is not what I'm referring to. And if you have that stuff in your car, please forgive me because you're welcome to have it, but I would suggest get it off and start living the life. Because they need to see Jesus in you, not read about him on your bumper. That make sense? Yes. I can beat them up because I get to go home. So ask yourself, do they know that I'm a Christian? At work, do they know that you're a Christian? A lot of times at work, that's usually where the line gets drawn. Look at the next action word, sit. Sit is to establish a place, a setting. Now you may think this is a non-active action. I mean, why would we even consider sitting as being an action? Sitting is an active involvement by an inactive action. Do you get that? It's an active involvement by an inactive action. I would have no purpose to stand up here or Kurt to be sitting over there, Pastor Kurt, if it wasn't for you sitting out there. You came and you sat. I guess, God has a problem when people are sitting, and I'm the only one in the room that's got it get together. So, look at this. What happens? Oh, by the way, you know the problem with sitting? You become vulnerable. You're easy to attack. You can't escape really quick. You're kind of like sitting. I mean, if somebody wanted to come at you, it'd be a lot better you sitting than standing, right? The enemy's always after you guys. So be careful where you sit. But notice this, it says where? In a seat. Well, of course you sit in a seat. No, the difference is a seat means permanency. It's a residence. You have taken a seat as a part of your life. This is my residence now. This is where I live now. Now, many of you may say, well, I've never been there. Maybe not. But you have to recognize how important your sitting is. The sitting itself is dangerous. Let me show you think about this, how important sitting is. Anybody ever go to a football game? Right? Okay, let me ask it another way. Anybody here that went to a football game and you went out in the field and pushed that ball and got yourself whooped just to get it 10 yards? No? I didn't think there would be. Certainly not up here. Well, when you do go to the football game, you usually go take a seat, right? You go and you sit down in a seat. The single most important person in that stadium is you. Because if nobody is sitting in those seats, there's no point in spending billions of dollars on a stadium, not to mention all those disgusting hot dogs, nor is there any reason or purpose to pay those guys millions of bucks to start walking over each other to move a ball. Not even a round one at that. That's crazy. Well then, why did they do it? Because you came and you sat in the seat. The point is, at this juncture, at the end of this scenario of erosion of your faith, you've come to a place to where you're sitting where you shouldn't be. And you're thinking, but it's okay, I'm a Christian and I'll just remain quiet. I won't say anything. I'm not going to bring up anything, cause an argument. I'll just sit here. Guys, you sitting there, you are participating. Don't ignore that. Well, yes, but I'm just quiet. Are you kidding? You've retreated. I'm going to encourage you something. I personally like to scrap. I don't have a problem with scrapping a little bit. I really don't. But I wonder why it is our world has gotten to a place of mocking God. Look at the last one here. The last one is, where are you sitting? In the seat of who? What? Scoffers or mockers. You're not just sitting in a seat of any old person. You're sitting in a seat of those who mock God. Yes, but I'm not doing that. Sitting there, that's exactly what you're doing, because you're giving them audience. Gossip. Gossip is only good if there's somebody willing to listen. We have to find out what we're doing with our foundation and start checking it out, because there could be some erosion there that's causing some serious problems. Because one day, under the pressure of life, it may not stand. It may simply fall. So there's several things you need to remember. First off, your cornerstone, and secondly, your foundation. Those are the two primary things, because upon that, your life is built. The scoffer part. The scoffer part. You ever notice how the entertainment world has used this book over and over and over and over and over again to create some really weird, stupid distortion of the truth? Have you ever noticed that? I can tell you from my experience, and I'm being honest here, I am amazed at how many people will come to me and say, well, I saw this movie and it said thus and such. And I'm not sure, is that true? Do you believe it? I think I do. Let's sit down and talk. Because they're not going to look it up. I have to look it up for them. Remember what I said at the beginning? Know your word. All right? Don't simply live on any word, because you will live on any word. Any word that is loud enough, smart enough, exciting enough, charismatic enough, you'll follow. You really will. If you're not tightened into a solid foundation, you are doomed. I'm just saying that honestly. Most of us come to church. You'll spend this, I better get going. We'll spend this hour. Hey, I hope you guys brought lunch. We'll spend this time, and you'll go home, and your Bible won't be opened up again until you get back here. Your investment in the Word won't take place until you get back here. What you hear here, you'll go home and say, I don't know if Pastor Ben was true, but I liked it. I hope you did. All right, that's it. No. I'm hoping, I'm praying that the few things that I'm saying is not directing so much you to be fearful, but to recognize you are responsible for the foundation in which your life is built. Oh no, God is responsible. No, He's not. He has given you a measure of faith. And it's like priming the pump. Jesus has died for you and given you the course, and the Holy Spirit is guiding you. Use the resources God gave you. And the media. I saw something the other day, and it kind of surprised me. But you know they have a rating. They go like from G to R, all right? I say they start at G and then they go down to R. But if you've noticed, there's 3 things that are required for that to happen, for a rating like that. Violence, sexual conduct, words. You with me? Those are the 3 things. Now, they don't have to be all 3. They can be any one of them. And in the word category, you can use, or when you use, just any wild word that your mind might go to, and I don't want you to go to there here in the church, but those are the things that will kick that up to an R rating. But isn't it interesting that no rating is ever changed at all when the Son of God's name is used as a curse word? They can say that over and over and still be a G rating. Why? Why did that happen? I think because, honestly, I think we as Christians have gotten so fearful that our foundation of faith is so weak, we really don't want to take anybody on about this. Well, they ain't doing it with the Muslims. You don't see the Quran being used that way. You don't see Allah being acted out that way. Well, why not? Fear. They don't need to fear us physically, but they should fear us, period. Because we still have a vote and we still buy things and we still do. There is no reason why collectively, if we call ourselves Christians, we can't make a serious, significant change in the world around us. But it's not happening. And it's not going to happen until we find out where our cornerstone is, right? And our foundation, where it lies. The last 2, let me give you the last 2 verse 2 and 3. Because this tells us not only how to shore it up, but also what happens. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and his law he meditates day and night. He is like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season, and whose leaf does not wither. Whatever he does prospers. That's pretty good. Wouldn't it be nice to, whatever you do, prosper? Well, God said it would. But there's expectations on your part. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I feel led, if you don't mind, give me another couple of minutes just to share this with you. I think Christians are predominantly frightened about being called names. We don't want to be called names. We don't want to be a hater or any of those things, whatever name they want to come up with. I want to encourage you to take note of something, because believe me, I've had a few of them names sent my way of late. It's okay. Not only is it okay, but when somebody calls you a name because of what you believe, they have no argument. They've run out of ammunition. There's nothing left but slander. When somebody calls you a name, pat yourself on the back. He got no place to go. And he doesn't. Socrates, a couple of thousand years ago, when a debate is lost, slander becomes the tool of the loser. That's a fact. They no longer have anything they can share. The debate is done. Remember when you were kids? Well, better yet, remember your kids when they were little. My boys, one of them would have a toy, the other one would want to play with it. Okay, here we go, right? And there would be this debate. Heated, but a debate as to who would get to play with the toy. Just Finally, the one who owns the toy would win out. And the one who didn't own the toy would say, "You poo-poo head." And then my other son would come in crying, saying, "You call me a poo-poo head." You know. Don't revert to childishness. If they call you a name, so what? They've got no place else to go. Amen? Now, I'm going to close, and I want to pray for you. But I'm going to ask you, look at me for a moment. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes and bow your head in a moment. If you're here, and there may be something that has been working and chipping away at your foundation of faith. It could be anything. It could be issues of the way you spend your money. It could be pornography. It could be drugs. It could be anything. It doesn't really matter what it is. But it's chipping away. There's something, and it doesn't have to be a big thing. Because that leak that they found underneath that building was not a massive lake. It was just a dribbling, continuous dribbling down that they found underneath the foundation. A dribbling, just a little water. That's the enemy trying to undermine your faith. If you know that we need to pray, and you need to pray this morning for that foundation, I'm going to ask you in a moment to raise your hand. And here's the reason I ask you that. You need to make an outward proclamation of an inward need. Nobody's going to be looking at you except me and God. Fair enough? If you're here and you've exchanged your cornerstone for the wrong thing, and you've got something else that you're working your faith off from. If your cornerstone has changed, maybe it started out with Christ, but well, it just kind of got off track a little. Maybe it's time to replace him, put him back where he belongs, as the very director of your life. And maybe you're here and you've never, maybe you've never asked him to be your cornerstone. See, there's an exchange there if you want to ask him to be your cornerstone. There's a price to pay. Your life. He'll give you his. He wants you to give him yours. And when that happens, he will be that cornerstone. Fair enough? Close your eyes for a moment. And join me in prayer. Father, we come before you humbly this morning. And Lord God, we all have something that is eroding away the foundation of our faith. What we've built upon it may seem strong and look good, but it's the foundation that will keep it upright. If anyone here, Lord, has something that has been gnawing at him or her, something that just keeps working at it, I ask in your holy name that you would not only reach into their life, but you will give them the strength to turn their back on that and to explore whatever is underneath that foundation and to replace it continually over and over and over with a deep understanding and love for you. If they're here this morning and maybe they've exchanged what was once a very strong cornerstone for something, well, maybe more personal or more in need, let them see that the only one we have that will make our needs right is you. Bring them back into your life, Lord. Let them turn back to you and ask you to continue to be that cornerstone. And if you're here this morning and you've never, well, maybe you've never given your heart to the Lord. You've never exchanged your life for a solid cornerstone to draw your faith. Now, with no one looking around, I'm going to ask, if any of those three are you, would you raise your hand, please? Yes, 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 yes. All over the room, yes. And for the rest, I would simply say, look at your foundation. Check it for leaks. Father, be with these people. We believe in you, Lord God, for you are the Son of God. Those who raise their hand that might be asking for a new life in you, Lord. I pray that they will recognize that you not only came and died for them, you rose again, and you stand at the right hand of the Father and wait patiently for their return. And the Holy Spirit will be with us. And thank you, Lord Jesus, for what you've done. Help us, Lord, now to walk rightly before you. Help us to walk outside this place a little different than we walked in. And I ask that in Jesus' holy name. And your church says? Amen. All right. He said I could dismiss you. Get out.
Just a second.
Huh?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
No, you stay there.
Oh.
Renee, pull up the blessing song, would you, Renee? We haven't sang this song in over a year and a half. And as I was listening to you, it's just good to hear you again.
Good one.
It's good to hear you again. It's good to hear you again.
Huh? That's not funny.
It is a fact that he is 10 years older than me.
And a day.
Almost exactly.
No, it's a day. You were when?
6th.
Yeah, 7th. Not fully 10 years.
He's 10 years older than me. And I remind him of that all the time. But Ben, it's just good to hear you. Good to hear your heart. And while you're pulling that up, well, good, it's there. I want to let you know some of the behind the scenes. Can they go to your website?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, talk to them about it.
Yeah, bensquill.com, benquill.com. If you want to go to that, for some reason, I've got more Facebook pages than I should. I don't know why, I can't get rid of them, but that's a new web page that we're putting together. It still has some construction to do, but we'd love to have you come out and check that out.
And the reason it's called Ben's Quill, if you know a quill, writing quill, he's been writing some books. And
a lot of blank pages.
I think one was called for a Hunt for Red October, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, talk a little bit.
In War and Peace.
And and he's even entered them into some I don't know if you call it competitions, but some conferences. But talk about that just for a moment.
Okay, I'm not exactly sure what.
Well, you entered it into. You were telling me you read. There's a trilogy of books he's working on. The first one's done. The second and third are not done yet. But you entered them into a conference where they were adjudicated.
Yeah, Well, I didn't win it. I came in as a finalist in the National Christian Writers for the country. I came in second in what they call the Crown Award, which is also a Christian writer. They're all Christian-based authors. And I came in first on the Sparrow Award. That was, and I checked, the Sparrow Publishing.
Oh, it is Sparrow. Okay,
yeah,
good.
it is.
So
it worked out pretty good.
He's just articulating himself and doing a great job. And of course, you got to tell Roberta that we missed her.
Roberta, by the way, also spells and checks my punctuation, so you can read it. I'm gonna have a seat.
Let us sing. We want to sing over you.
Oh, okay.
I know you're in a hurry. Oh, we're late. Thank you.
I went a little long. I'm
it's all
sorry,
your fault.
guys.
Would you stand with me? Put your hands towards Ben, and let's sing the song, and then we'll head on home. All right. Let the Lord who watches over us be good to you. Fill you with His love and kindness as you go. Surrounded by His arms of comfort, strength, and grace. May you prosper in your walk of life today. The Lord be good. The Lord be good. The Lord be good to you.
He is.
God bless you. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.